In the year 2000, two men walked into a boardroom in Dallas and offered to sell their entire company for $50 million. The company on the other side of the table laughed at them. That little company they laughed at was Netflix. Today, it's worth over $250 billion. The company that laughed, Blockbuster, a 9,000-store giant, has exactly one location left on planet Earth. This is the story of the most expensive laugh in business history. And the twist is that Blockbuster wasn't killed by Netflix. It was killed by the one thing it refused to give up. Stick around. Let me set the scene, because you have to understand how big Blockbuster was to feel how hard this fall is. Friday night in the 1990s and early 2000s was Blockbuster. You drove to the store, wandered the aisles, fought your family over one DVD, and prayed the last copy of the movie you wanted wasn't already gone. At its peak in 2004, Blockbuster had over 9,000 stores, around 84,000 employees, and roughly $6 billion in annual revenue. 50 million members. It was movie night. And here's the detail that matters for this entire story. A huge chunk of Blockbuster's profit didn't come from renting you movies. It came from late fees. Somewhere around $500 million a year, just from you forgetting to return the tape. That's not a side effect of the business. For Blockbuster, that basically was the business. Renting was the bait. The late fee was the hook. Hold that thought. It's going to come back and end them. Now meet the other guy. In 1997, a man named Reed Hastings rents Apollo 13 from Blockbuster, returns it late, and gets slapped with a $40 late fee. He's furious. And on the drive to the gym, he has a thought that will eventually destroy a giant. Why does renting a movie work like this at all? Why late fees? Why due dates? What if movies just showed up in your mailbox and you kept them as long as you wanted? That idea becomes Netflix, DVDs by mail, a subscription, no due dates, no late fees. The exact opposite of everything Blockbuster made money on. Think about how insulting that is to Blockbuster's whole model. A man they charged $40 was so annoyed, he built a company whose entire pitch was, "We will never do to you what they just did to me." But in the year 2000, Netflix is tiny. Fewer than 300,000 subscribers, bleeding cash. The dot-com bubble is bursting, and investors are running for the exits. Netflix needs two things, money and reach, and Blockbuster has an ocean of both. So Hastings and his co-founder, Mark Randolph, do the sensible thing. They offer to sell Netflix to the giant. They fly to Dallas, into Blockbuster's headquarters, and pitch a partnership. Blockbuster buys Netflix for $50 million, and Netflix runs Blockbuster's online arm, while the stores keep doing their thing. And according to Netflix's own co-founders, the Blockbuster executives just about laughed them out of the room. To Blockbuster, this was adorable. A money-losing DVD mail startup asking a $6 billion empire for $50 million during a tech crash. The CEO, John Antioco, reportedly saw Netflix as a tiny niche business and the whole dot-com thing as overblown hype. Hastings and Randolph flew home crushed. Hastings later said he lay in bed imagining all 60,000 Blockbuster employees laughing at him. And here's the thing, turning them down wasn't even the fatal mistake. That came next. Because for a while, the laughers looked right. From 2000 to about 2004, Netflix grew, but Blockbuster's revenue held steady. Everyone at the top could point at the flat line and say, "See, the threat's overblown." Then, around 2004, Antioco finally got it. He saw the future coming, and to his credit, he made the brave call. He launched Blockbuster Online to fight Netflix, and he tried to kill the thing that was driving customers away: late fees. He wanted to end them entirely. Ending late fees cost Blockbuster hundreds of millions in revenue up front, a painful bet on the future. It was exactly the right move. And it is precisely the move that got him destroyed. Because a corporate raider named Carl Icahn had been buying up Blockbuster stock. And Icahn looked at Antioco burning cash on online video and throwing away the sacred late fee money, and he went to war. He forced his way onto the board and started a brutal fight, arguing Antioco was wrecking the company's profits, chasing a fad. In 2007, Icahn won. Antioco, the one executive who actually saw what was coming, was pushed out. His replacement was a former 7-Eleven CEO named Jim Keyes, who had one strategy: forget the internet, refocus on the stores. He gutted the online investment. And about Netflix, he said out loud, and I'm barely paraphrasing, that he was frankly confused by everyone's fascination with them. Let that sit. At the exact moment the company needed to run toward the future, its new leader turned around and sprinted back into the past. They even brought late fees back. Meanwhile, Netflix did the thing Blockbuster couldn't imagine. In 2007, it launched streaming. No mail, no stores, no late fees, just press play. And here's the part that stings most. Just before Antioco was pushed out, his big program, called Total Access, letting you rent online and return in-store, was actually working. It was genuinely scaring Netflix. Hastings later admitted he was worried. But it was expensive, and the board wanted the money back, not the future. So they killed the one thing that was working, fired the man running it, and handed the wheel to someone who thought the whole internet video thing was a fad. And the giant simply couldn't turn. Blockbuster was drowning in debt, nearly $1 billion of it, a lot of it left over from a payout to its former parent company. So while Netflix reinvented entertainment, Blockbuster was too broke and too committed to its stores to chase it. As Hastings himself later admitted, if Blockbuster hadn't been buried in that debt, they could have crushed Netflix. They had the brand, the customers, the money. They just pointed all of it in the wrong direction. In September 2010, Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy, around $1 billion in debt. A company that had been worth $6 billion, gone. The next year, satellite company Dish Network bought the corpse for $320 million. Most stores closed, then more. By 2014, the corporate stores were done. Today, there is exactly one Blockbuster left in the entire world, a single franchise in Bend, Oregon. It survives as a kind of museum. People fly in to take photos next to the blue and yellow sign, to visit the last dinosaur. Netflix, the company they laughed at, is now worth over $250 billion. So here's what actually killed Blockbuster, and it connects straight to our other stories. It wasn't Netflix. Netflix was just the messenger. Blockbuster was killed by its own best source of money, late fees. That revenue was so juicy, so reliable, that the company literally could not imagine a world without it. Even when a customer they'd charged $40 built the future out of pure spite. That's the trap. The thing that makes you the most money today is the exact thing that blinds you to the future. Late fees weren't just Blockbuster's profit. They were the thing it refused to give up, right up until it had nothing left to give. And notice the pattern. It wasn't one big dumb decision. It was 100 small, reasonable ones. Protect the profit, reassure the investors, cut the costly experiment. Every single step made sense on its own spreadsheet. Added together, they walked a $6 billion giant straight off a cliff. That's how empires actually die. Not in one laugh, but in a slow refusal to let go, dressed up as good business. So I've got to ask, what's the last movie you ever rented from a Blockbuster? Drop it in the comments. Bonus points if you still owe them a late fee.